everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of Against All Odds. And as I say at the beginning of every episode, it's a purely selfish podcast because I like to speak to inspirational people. So here we are. And today I'm excited to be interviewing Harry Purdy. How are you, my lovely?
I'm really well. I mean, if you're looking for inspirational people, do you want me to go and find someone or?
Oh, shut up. We was just chatting before this podcast because I read one of Harry's posts a couple of weeks ago. It's actually pinned to the top of his profile, and I didn't realise his backstory. So I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited for this. Not only is he an inspiration, but he's also a fellow podcast host. So this is going to be really good.
Yeah, lots of things on the that we have in common. Obviously, both coaches, both podcasters, and obviously, as you're aware, being 40, how many episodes did you say? 40?
You're for number 42.
42 episodes deep.
Yeah.
When you record a podcast, you can have a plan in the back of your head for how you want the conversation to go or where you want the conversation to go, but you could go down a completely different rabbit hole. So it'd be interesting to see where we go tonight.
Do you know what? Interesting enough. So the first two podcasts I did, I scripted a load of questions. After that, I've just binned it.
Yeah. I found that early doors in my podcasting lifespan, 180 episodes last week. So a little bit, only a little bit further down the timeline than you are. And that's just because of time, right? Like I've been doing it for longer than you, not because of any other reason. Is that when I first started, I did exactly the same thing. I'd go into people's bios, try and find some prompts. But actually, when you think about a podcast interview as more of a conversation, and you're just trying to get to know somebody, and if there's something that they say that you want to find out more about, that makes it a more free-flowing episode than just going in with a few set questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we've just been speaking. Not a lot of people, new followers that you've got, actually know your backstory. We were saying that a lot of people know you as the online coach, PT, like you're just running everywhere. But there's much more to it, isn't there? And I was absolutely gobsmacked when I read it.
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of say that my story, my comeback story is it's got like two elements to it. One of them was the physical element, which I handled pretty early. And the second element was the poor mindset that I developed and poor attitude towards myself and towards life, actually, that then kind of unraveled a little bit later down the timeline of when I started to get myself a little bit more in shape, but not fully. Bad habits, like I say, bad habits, bad attitude towards myself about life, and then that unraveled itself into a big kind of. I don't like using the word. I don't like using the words too much because it's almost like you're putting that label on yourself. But I was in a low mood. I was depressed. And I guess you could call it a little bit of a Christmas mental breakdown. That was the crutch point or the clutch point with my mental health. And prior to that, in 2016, I'd got myself to 23 stone over a long period of, again, bad habits, a sedentary job. I was a security guard. Just no knowledge. Honestly, I had no knowledge about food, what I was putting into my body. Didn't even know the number one thing that I'd get a handle on with like a client now in terms of sugary drinks. If like in terms of what you're drinking, if you're having 2 Monster Energies that are full fat sugar, that could be 400 calories excess that you're drinking every day. What a waste of calories, right? Those kind of things I was doing. That led to me being 23 stone. And the moment of the turnaround, which I guess physically I was a football manager as well at the time. Football has always been a huge passion of mine. Got my first item of clothing was a Chelsea shirt, and ever since I was a kid, being around sport has been something that's been insanely passionate about. And I love the team ethic, and I love the community spirit about sport, and I love the passion as well, right? Like some people look at football and they're like, oh, people are too passionate, but actually I think it like dives into a part of the human brain that isn't tapped into very often, and actually I quite like it, you know. But anyway, on that cup final day, we got to a cup final, and I still played a bit, but obviously being 23 stone, you're never the most useful player on the football pitch,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You need to be able to get around. One of the most, like, it's one of the most intense sports in terms of distances that you need to travel
Mm,
in a match. So on that day, had 18 players available. I was included in that lineup and had to choose 16. Two would drop out, and I was one of the people that dropped out. And I was thinking on the evening of that game, I was like, my family are there watching, my closest friends are there watching, but I'm just the manager. Like
yeah,
all of my mates are gonna go and get like if we win, all the kudos, all the credit, and all of those kind of things. Obviously, it was a great thing that I was doing for the community in terms of getting people together, running the team, a lot of voluntary time. But I was like, man, how old was I at the time? 20, 26, 26,
yeah,
25, 26. I was like, you should be playing. And literally something in my head just changed, Amy. It was like, right,
yeah.
sort of shit out. Got up the next morning. I couldn't sleep because I was nervous slash excited for the cup final anyway. And I went for a run. And on that morning, I discovered that I couldn't even run a mile. And then
Right.
that was almost like another chip
Yeah,
into the right. How has this happened?
yeah,
Let's get this sorted out.
yeah. It's oh, you have to kind of have that wake up call, don't you? But you must have at that point felt scared as well because it's a scary thing knowing that you've got to change.
Yeah, I think it's always I think there's always two elements of that, isn't there? And I'm sure
Yeah,
you've had experience of it as well. Deep down, when you're a big lad and you go out on nights out and your mates are cracking on with girls, like for example, and you're the one sat in the corner, not really bothered about that, more worried about probably hiding the fact that you weren't confident by just relying on the fact that I could drink a lot, being at the bar, like making sure I was getting drinks, even if it was conversations with people at work. I've always been quite a bubbly character, and
yeah,
people who have known me for years would always say your personality actually hasn't changed. You're still that bubbly person, the confident person. But when they say the terminology like fake it till you make it, I was 100% doing that when I was bigger. Now I have confidence from the fact that I've got evidence of that I can do hard shit, right? Which
yeah,
obviously is another element altogether. And the fact that I know that I can handle my shit as well when it comes to when push comes to shove and I need to be resilient and I need to overcome a challenge. There may be a dip in mood and then maybe some emotion show, but I know that I can always come back from that, right? But that's
yeah,
confidence.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but in terms of that change, there's that I knew that I needed to change I knew that it wasn't normal that I was 23 stone. Like my mates were
yeah,
fit, they could run, they were better at football than me. I was always a good technical footballer, like I could control a football. I can probably ping a ball 40 yards into a zone if you wanted me to, but getting around the pitch I couldn't do. So that was an element where I was like, yeah, I probably need to change that. But knowing you need to and doing are two
yeah.
different things, as you're very aware.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, it's about re-educating yourself as well when it comes to food.
Oh my
Because
God.
let's be honest, there's a lot of people that are walking around thinking, this is healthy, this is healthy, and it's absolutely not. I see it everywhere.
Yeah, and I'll be really honest with you. There was some complete in education with food and calories and how many calories I needed and the amount of excess calories I was consuming. I like I feel embarrassed when I say it now, but I would go into a shift at Asda. I would if I started at 6 in the morning, there'd be when they had money and they actually invested in their colleagues back in the
Yeah.
day. They don't do it anymore because they've invested in AI and all of these machines, all of
Yeah,
these
yeah,
things, right? But there was a canteen, and it was like pennies for food. Like I could get I don't know, an absolutely enormous breakfast for about £1.50. It was
yeah,
it was ridiculous. Like it would be cost price of what Asda would pay for the food, and we would get it for like machines with chocolate bars in that you could get for 30p, all of these kind of things. So all of the environment really was set up for me to fail in some aspects because I didn't have the knowledge about the calories I was consuming. As
yeah,
well as that, like the bakery, like the freshly made food, all of those kind of things. On an 8 hour shift, I think like if I was to break it down in terms of calories, I'd be consuming 3,000 calories before I even went home. So
yeah,
you think about that, plus a sedentary lifestyle at the time. I wasn't playing football. I didn't have the gym life and running life that I have now. Again, it was all created for me to become fat. And
Yeah.
like that sounds like a harsh word, but you can't get away from the fact that I was morbidly obese for my age and my height at that time. So yeah, that's where it got to.
Yeah. I was like, I was like, wow, 23 stone. I never even imagined. So you've had a huge transformation. But when I speak to a lot of people that have been through a health transformation, they've all said they've had to work on the mindset as well. Because you can't do that. You can't change without changing basically who you are.
Yeah, I think there's always the element where I'm like, I haven't changed that much in terms of through the weight loss. The weight
Yeah,
loss hasn't been the thing that's changed me because, like people say, you still got that element of your character around you. You're just
yeah,
fucking insanely driven now, right?
yeah, yeah,
The the change and the biggest change for me was when I had, so obviously we've done the first part of the two pronged approach that I had to take on my own health was
yeah,
getting a handle on what I was eating, moving a bit more. So I took up running and and by the way, along that journey there was some really bad dieting decisions in terms of I tried to lose weight in some really unhealthy ways, which now I
yeah,
would coach clients completely away from. But you have to go through these things to realize that they're shit, and then you come
yeah,
out of them the other way with other end with the education.
yeah,
But when it got to 2019 slash 20, I can never really pinpoint what year it was, where I just started to notice that like I wouldn't feel that great. My mood would slip in terms of like I'd go home after football on a Saturday night and I'd get like really sad and no, for
yeah,
no real reason. I would have like thoughts of oh my friends are at home with their partners and I'm here on my own. Those kind of low mood moments, and then it
mm,
came to a head of in 2020, I believe, on Christmas Day, where been having these like intrusive thoughts around like I was beating myself up around I'd not achieved enough in life. I was having like relationship doubts at the time, which were really playing on my mind. There was like a conflict of values and what like one of us wanted at the time and what the other person didn't want at the time. And all of these things just like mounted up that every day I'd be waking up thinking about it. And then because I'd be thinking about it and I would feel anxious, like I'd have that feeling in my stomach and I would just my aura just gone. Like I was like a in terms of the character I have now and the character I'd have had previously, it had just been sucked out of me. And there'd be days where that nothing would get me excited. I'd be thinking about like why aren't I feeling happy like now
yeah,
and trying to compare. And then like it would gradually unwind itself and I'd wind myself up internally with feeling anxious. So that means that soon I'm gonna be depressed and then maybe commit suicide. All of these kind of really wacky,
yeah,
wild, intrusive thoughts in my head. Because you see the even 7 years ago, the stories were on the news, right? Around like looking after your mental health, but never in a productive way. It was always just be careful with the warning signs. Okay, well, I'm being careful right now, but it's not fucking helping. That's
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
how
yeah,
I felt. And
yeah,
then at Christmas Day, I had this breakdown, and lo and behold, because of the like things I was looking at on social media at the time, Paul Mort's cliff video.
yeah.
Like what?
That cliff video got us all.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And from there, Amy, my life has completely and utterly changed in the most dramatic, wild fashion. That to the point where last week, I don't know if you were going to ask me about this, but last week I completed the Goggins challenge, and still I've got to pinch myself in terms of how far I've come.
yeah.
Yeah, and there you go. Yeah, there's the
How
real
did you find the Goggins challenge, by the way? Because that that takes some
yeah.
balls to even agree to do it, let alone do it.
It was always something that I was like I was going to do it at some point, and November normally I've done some wacky stuff like and every time I've done something like considered to be wacky, I've increased the what I've inputted into it every November. So it started off with 250k over the month, then it went up to 300k over the month. I've always done something for November, and then last Movember, sorry, in November. Last year, sorry, it was the 54K ultra marathon. So I did an ultra marathon for the first time. And this year it came to November and I was like, oh, I was getting, they're really good, the fundraisers and the commercial people for Movember, because they start sending you emails. They're like, you were in the platinum club last year. It'll be great to have your help again. And I was like, oh, fucking hell, all right then, like I'll do something. And I was like, what am I going to do this year? I didn't want to do another endurance run. Well, no, it turned out that like an event.
You did.
Yeah, turns out I did. But I meant like an event. I didn't want to sign up to something again because that's it would have meant traveling. And I've done a lot of traveling recently. I was like, what can I do at home that can still have the same impact? And I was like, I know you've been thinking about doing the Goggins challenge. So I just literally quickly sat here, did a quick search, reminded myself what it was, and then looked at my calendar and I had 2 days free, 48 hours. I was like, fuck it. Am I all right to swear on here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I do all
absolutely,
the time.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, so I said, fuck it. I'll do it on those 2 days. I landed from Poland on the Monday, slept for 5 hours, got up at 1:30 and started the Goggins challenge. In terms of the question that you've asked, I got to be honest with you, Amy. Apart from getting ill after, which is apparently quite common to have like a chesty and viral infection after you've done an endurance challenge like that, I actually found it okay. And
did you? Wow.
What I will say to that is, it was hard. Of course, it was hard. Waking up not having more than 90 minutes sleep at one point over 2 days.
Yeah.
Is tough. You can't get around that. But one thing that I'll back myself with now is when I sign up to something, there's always doubt. Like you always have that element of doubt of something within you will say, I'm not sure you can do that. But I've learnt to live with that thought process now. And even when some of the runs were going hard, because I've done the London Marathon, which I would outrightly say is the hardest endurance challenge I've done, because you have
really?
Yeah, because with a marathon compared to an ultra marathon, the idea of a marathon is you're almost racing for time. And I am quite competitive, and I think with a marathon, if you're a road runner, you want to set yourself a time to beat.
Yeah.
And that therefore leads to more exertion. Muscles get tired quick. We won't talk about this too much on your pod, but I've got a real tendency to cramp. So I've had to deal with I've had a lot of challenge with overcoming that. But at the London Marathon, I was aiming for sub 4.5 hours. I just missed it by about 3 minutes, because of cramp and because of muscle exertion. On an ultra marathon or an endurance event like Goggins, you can rest. Like you do have periods of rest, and that helps. So like with an ultra marathon, every 10 to 15K, there's a station. You can literally chill there 10 minutes, make sure you're hydrated, eat a lot of food, and then off you go again. With Goggins, like I would do 4 miles, get home, eat, hydrate, sleep for 90 minutes if I felt tired, wake up, go again. The toughest things was the getting up and going again. And the toughest thing, your body naturally obviously wears itself down the longer you continually keep it active. So by the end of it, I was ready to give up. Not give up, sorry. I was ready to stop. I was ready to have a long sleep, but I thought I would be in a worse hole than what I was. But I do believe that's because I'd put myself through challenge before, that I kind of knew what to expect from myself in those lowest moments, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Incredible. I'm quite excited to see what you come up for next November.
Yeah, well, yeah, people have said like, what's next to me over the last week, and really, the challenge this December is to eat the biggest Christmas dinner I've ever eaten. And I know that sounds a bit cheesy and a bit cliche, but it's been the business is growing. I've smashed that challenge. I've ran the London Marathon earlier this year. I'm impacting more people with my PTs. So I have 4 working days left with my full-time job. I'm going to continue coaching and doing what I'm doing online and all those kind of things. So I absolutely love it. But actually, it's going to be a month where I just take a sit back and review and look back at what I've achieved over the last 2 years, because it's been a bit of a whirlwind in terms of how far I've pushed myself, and I still believe there's more. And that's the caveat of self-development, which people don't talk enough about, is there's that always that element of, okay, you've achieved this, so what's next? And
Yeah.
we're guilty as coaches and people who have the same interest to be the same with other people. Okay, you've done 50 podcast episodes. How many are you going to do next?
Yeah,
Or you've
yes.
just interviewed this great guest. Who you got lined up next?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
always like a what's next, always like a what's next. Whereas actually, as much as the focus is going to be like, I've got a finance target I want to hit by the end of the year with the business, but really, like in terms of physically and in terms of like what I'm going to do in terms of commitments, it's just going to be enjoy Christmas as best as possible, recover from this little illnessy flu thing that I've got around my body right now, and just look back and give myself a pat on the back, because again, in our industry, it's really difficult sometimes to take a look at yourself and go, fuck me, mate.
Yeah,
Like you've
yeah.
done so well.
Yeah.
Give yourself a, like allow yourself to take a chill pill in all
Yeah.
aspects. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, but yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. We are guilty of that. It's constantly, instead of reflecting, it's constantly pushing forward. It is a bit of a downside, it can be, if you don't
Yeah,
have
and
that
look,
plan.
as you're aware, again, two sides to every coin, right? Like
Yeah.
nobody ever wants to be I don't ever want to feel comfortable again in my life, because but that sounds bizarre. I don't ever want to feel a position in my life where I'm not challenged, because when I look back at Harry, who was crying at his mum's in front of his in front of his stepdad now, um, Phil and my mum, that they didn't understand. They were empathetic as fuck, but they didn't understand why I was like that. I didn't understand why I was like that.
Mm,
When I
yeah.
think about the training that I've had over the last 4 years, no goals, no inspiration, no challenge, no drive, bad diet, bad habits, all equated to me being there. But I will say to anybody who's suffering with any form of anxiety, depression, low mood, whatever the label may be, if right now in your life there's nothing that's getting you to look forward and focus to the future in a element that's giving you some kind of desire and drive and fire in your belly, that's what's missing. That's why you have
Yeah.
that feeling. And I know
Yeah.
there's a really small percentile of people that do naturally and are more susceptible of suffering with negative thoughts, low mood, and depression. There is that percentile of people. But if you're not in that percentile of people, if you start putting goals in your life and things in your life that excite you, watch that mood unravel into feel good energy.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to when the 2020
2020.
kind of
Yeah.
blip, yeah. So you'd already started losing weight by then,
Mm.
and you still felt shit. Now that's really interesting, because you still find, so, people are like, right, I need to lose weight, and it'll be all about losing the weight and getting fitter, and then they get there, and then they're still not happy. They're still feeling flat, depressed, whatever it is. And you just said about goals and things like that. I think people make it so much about, right, I need to just fix this one thing and everything's going to be fine. Did you find that?
Yeah, and again, it was something that I've had to overcome as a professional now. My acknowledgement of letting the scales dictate how I thought about myself at the time.
Yeah, yeah,
Something that
yeah.
I've had to work on and learn about, and all of those different intricacies that can have an impact on literally tomorrow. You could wake up 2 kilograms heavier through no other reason than you've not passed anything through your body and you've eaten more carbs than you had done recently in the day before. Maybe you've had a couple of beers, right? That could be a
Yeah.
2 kg change. And when I look back at that, Harry, it was very much scale orientated, how much credit I would give myself. Oh, I've lost a bit of weight this week. I've not lost a bit of weight this week, and almost beat myself up if the
Mm,
trajectory hadn't continued. But also, one thing that again is not spoken about enough when it comes to weight loss, and dramatic weight loss as well. By the way, it's 8 stone in total, like
wow.
over the time frame, which
Yeah.
is a lot. And I know people have lost more, but obviously my journey's my journey. It's been 8 stone,
Yeah. It's a
and it's
huge
still
amount, mate.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you, I appreciate it. But what I think I got addicted to was wow, Harry, you've lost weight. wow, Harry, you look great. Wow, Harry. And then it stops. Like you hit a bit of a trajectory, like a plateau. And then the
Yeah,
trajectory kind of slows down. And you're like, fucking hell, like I was quite enjoying that feeling. And then
yeah,
you
you can't
then you
add
get,
all that validation and
yeah,
praise.
yeah. But actually what you're not doing there when you're getting that validation from other people is you're not giving yourself that validation of
Yeah,
like, oh, you are doing really well. And you take that compliment from somebody and you kind of just go, oh, thank you, which some people say in the mindset world that's acknowledgement, but actually there was no real photo evidence of how well I'd done until I started taking taking evidence of that front, and there was no real physical aspect of showing my improvement. So at the time, yeah, the scales were dropping, but I wasn't really getting any fitter. My muscle shape hadn't really improved. I was still a bit
hmm
of a I don't want to use the word blob because that sounds quite harsh on where I'd gotten myself to at that point. But there was no shape to my body. It was
yeah,
still the same body shape. It was just a bit smaller. There was no event that I could say, oh, like at one point I could run a 5K in 50 minutes, let's just say, and now I can do it in 40. Like there was nothing like that, but there was just the scales. So that's kind of a thing where you're like, oh, like no wonder you feel like shit because you've not got any evidence behind you that's saying, oh, there's other improvements. Because when you do, like, again, naturally, our brains, it gives us a little bit of a dopamine kick, doesn't it? When we
yeah, yeah,
see
yeah,
improvement in whether it be getting stronger, it's why people love the gym when they first start properly because they start seeing the newbie gains, right? They're literally
yeah,
jumping through the dumbbells or jumping up the slots on the machines. um, or with running, when people start running properly, they start to take notice of their times. And when they get a little PB, it gives them that little boost. But at the time, there was nothing like that. And I was completely, on another note, completely and utterly lacking a purpose. I just got a job that I thought was gonna like make my life. It was the most money. It was more money than I ever thought I could earn ever. Like being a working class lad from Yeovil in the southwest of England, I got given an opportunity. The money was mega, even to the extent where I got given my contract and I looked at the salary and I was like, fucking hell, that's amazing. That's way more than what I'm earning right now. And then my mate who worked for the company at the time, he said to me, no, that's just your first year. Have you seen like when you've done your first year, it goes up? And I've turned the page, seen that salary, and I was like, fuck me. So that was kind of like I thought I'd made it.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I thought that was it. But then I've got quite an energetic brain. Maybe my mum will deny it till the cows come home, but I do think there's some form of I have to be doing something within me. And I don't want to say it's ADHD, don't want to say there's some kind of behavioral thing there, but there's something there that just doesn't allow me to sit still for too long.
yeah,
And without that purpose, without that other element of goal setting, that's what equated to that position of being as low as I've ever felt on
yeah.
that Christmas day at that time.
I think some brains are just that energetic that they are driven by purpose. I think every brain needs a purpose,
Yeah.
but people will argue that with me.
And no, and do you know what? I've had thoughts about this, and I've had conversations with people in the past who are interested in my journey, and
Yeah.
like, and I ask a question, and sometimes they're like, "Why do you do all this?" And I'm like, "Well, it gives me a purpose. Do you not feel that you need that?" And most people that say no, I'm like, I've thought about it over time. Most people that say no run their own business, and they don't
Right. Okay.
realize they
Yeah.
don't they don't necessarily realize that their purpose is already there.
Yeah.
They're the breadwinner. They've got their purpose and it's their
Yeah.
business and they love it.
Yeah.
Does that
Absolutely.
make
So
sense?
they've gone
Yeah,
into it without being aware. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Interesting that is. It's like when you ask people though, what makes you happy, and nobody can answer. It's the same question. Same
Well,
kind of question, isn't it?
what? Yeah, one thing I would say is one thing that I've learned in my journey is like definitions for words that you speak are really important, and I learned this from Dax Moy. I don't know if you spoke to Dax.
Oh yes, I've had Dax on the podcast.
Like
Yes.
he is one of the he is him and Peter Sage are the best speakers that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And Dax, I've had on a few times on the podcast as well. And every time he comes on, he says something. I'm like, fuck me, like literally just like, it's just a breakthrough moment. And one of
Yeah.
the things that he said to me on one of the earlier episodes we did is that every word of description that you use in your own language needs some form of definition behind it. So if
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
and his example for this was, if you can't define what you mean by the word love, how are you ever going to know what love is
Yeah.
when you find
Yeah.
it? Like happiness, if you can't define what happiness is, how the fuck are you going to know when you're happy or not, right? And I know, but what one thing, when you say that, you're like, oh, that's like seems so obvious. But like you say, if you speak to 90% of people, what do you define happiness as? Most people would turn around and say, "Cool, I don't know."
Yeah.
But
It's weird, isn't
yeah,
it?
but it's actually knowing gives you it gives you an advantage in life, because when
Yeah.
you're looking to feel happier, you can go, okay, what do I mean by happy? I mean connection, I mean fun, I mean doing something that's going to generate me some excitement, maybe. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And that, then from there you can take action on like how to go and feel that feeling, which is only temporary, by the way. But if you don't have
Yeah.
that definition, you could be searching fucking years. And I
I
think
know.
people are.
I never
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah. And then, well, yeah. And then we do get there because, well, maybe people never get there. But luckily, I invested in myself. I got good coaches. I put myself around good people that gave me the knowledge and the tools to go and search for purpose, happiness, drive, goal setting. And then that's enabled me to become the person that I am today, which is like I'm proud. Like I don't mind saying it. I'm getting better at saying it. Like I don't mind saying that I'm trying to inspire people. I don't mind saying that I'm proud of what I've achieved. But for the
Yeah.
first couple of years, when I started doing things a little bit different, I'd be very, very coy about it. You know, like
Yeah.
very much, okay, this like work that I'm doing on the side of myself is something I keep literally in this office here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like people, like girlfriends and my parents obviously knew, but I would never outrightly say I want to be the best version of myself. I'm proud of how far I've come.
Yeah.
I'm delighted with how my fitness has improved. I'm delighted with how much of a better footballer I am now. Like all of these things that have happened as a consequence of the journey, I can
Yeah.
be open about now. And I think that's work of sometimes when you're looking for confidence to be able to say these things, it may never show unless you just start saying them anyway. And
Yeah.
our coach is the greatest example of it, right? He is unapologetically confident as fuck in every circumstance. But the fact that he reiterates the point of two-time Master Coach of the Year award, Master Coach of the Year award twice, world-class coach, world-class podcaster. Like he says that he's fucking good.
Yeah.
What,
Yeah.
like internally, how good must that make him feel from a habitual perspective?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so true. So you entered the world of self-development with
Yeah, I did.
Paul. Did you at any point think, shit, what have I got myself into? Because it's like stripping away everything you know
Mm.
and doing life differently.
I I gotta be honest with you, yeah, on a couple of occasions, because as we've already like alluded to, there's always something around the corner that
Yeah.
gets you to grow again. And like one of my favorite Peter Sage quotes is that you're just getting an education in life. Like it's another qualification every time you go through a challenge. You're getting another qualification
Yeah.
in the course that is life, right? And I love
Yeah.
that because it's so true. But yeah, on multiple times, like when Paul has called me out for the way that I've been with, not called me out, but challenged me and coached me on my attitude towards other people, for example. That was one of the biggest things that I could ever say that I've taken away from it. My
Yeah.
reaction time and my thought process around other people now and their actions is way different
Yeah.
because of the lessons that I've got in terms of not not expecting my standards from other people. People were only doing the best for themselves at the time. That was a
Yeah.
really big one because I think as well, Amy, one thing that's I don't mind being honest about, and maybe you agree with me, is when you're outside of the spectrum without realizing it, I think you can be the spectrum of self-development is what I'm saying. You go through life with like this really selfish kind of demeanor, and
Yes.
everything can be about you. When I think about myself in that low mood, we can talk about the victim state. Everything was happening to me. This person was being a dick to me. My mum was not giving me this because of this reason. My parents had divorced, and that was giving me an excuse to be like a shithead at college, and all of these kind of patterned behaviors and habits, and the way that I'd speak about how my life had gotten and why I was the way I was had developed. Which
Yeah.
therefore, when I look back at that version of me, I'm like, man, like that's such a selfish way of looking at it. But then you flip it and you go, and Paul's like, right, what positives have happened from those situations? You're like, fuck. And actually, I had
Yeah.
like had a reality check with a friend of mine the other day. We were just talking about one of their life experiences, and I was like, have you ever considered that there might be some positives from this?
Yeah.
And honestly, we were eating dinner, and it was like the world had stopped for 30 seconds because I saw, as every coach is looking for, that holy shit moment
Yeah.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
fear. Like, oh my God. And I was like,
Yeah.
literally had the same thing about the same, because there's no good telling somebody, oh, there is positives. When you give
Yeah.
somebody the opportunity to look into it, have you ever
Yeah. There'll be
considered that there
positives
might
there somewhere.
yeah, and obviously, I say obviously, excuse me, I am suffering with a cold, listeners. So yeah, it's the knock-on effect of the Goggins challenge. So apologies if you can hear me coughing. But one of the beautiful elements of the 100% podcast is I give people the opportunity to come on and speak about their 100% journeys, as I like to call it, right? And
Yeah.
that involves a lot of change. And I love
Yeah.
talking to people about that, how their journeys have developed and how they have changed specifically from challenge. And my
Yeah.
challenge realistically was just me letting my life unravel itself into a bit of a like bottomless pit of purposeless lack of drive oblivion that allowed
Yeah.
me to create problems for myself, feel like shit, and not know how to change it. Whereas other people have like real fucking challenge. Yeah. Like divorce, people cheating on them, death in the family, serious illness, all of these things. And that's where the real fucking work starts. Because when people like Stuart Kane, for
Mm-hmm.
example,
Yeah.
unbelievable story. If you don't know the story, go and check out Ada's Foundation. But his story of losing his daughter and still being able to flip it into a positive and still
Yes.
finding three positives
Yeah. On
that
that
on
day.
that day,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
just like, there's
Yeah.
nothing.
That's always stuck with me.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like I use it with my clients. When my clients check in with me and they're like, I just didn't see any positives this week, I'm like, listen to this.
Yeah.
Strap yourself in, you're in for a ride. Because I'll
Yeah.
only use that when I really need to, because it's an emotional story. People can react to that differently.
Yeah.
But at the right time, at the right place, listening to that story is fucking massive. And it just
Yeah.
shows you though, there aren't I don't think there are many, if any, situations in life that you couldn't just put a little flip on.
Yeah. Absolutely. Sometimes it's harder work than other days, but it's there.
Yeah. You know that the switch is there if you need it, right?
Yeah. And it's a choice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And I would say that that's where I get my energy from now, is that knowing, even if it's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example, being late for something, like the smallest example that there is, there's always a positive from that. Like
Yeah.
you look better because you've turned up 5 minutes late, right? You've had extra time to do your hair.
Yeah.
Obviously, all
Do
those
you
kind of
know what
things.
it? Yeah, it's like flipping it round. I was talking about this the other day. When you flip it round, so whether it's finding positives out of a shit situation, even going down to just like what's gone well for you today, right? And it could be the smallest thing that has gone well for you today,
Yeah,
right? The minute you start doing that over time, you are rewiring your subconscious all the time.
Yeah.
Like you can't tell that it's doing it, you can't feel what it's doing, but you automatically, after time, you start to become more optimistic. You are more hardwired to see the positives in the day. And I always say to people, like, it literally takes you 5 minutes a day to write down 3 wins, or if you've had something bad happen, write some positives down, keep that list to one side, keep adding to it. You don't have to sit there and do it all in one go, but just keep finding it. And it does rewire your subconscious, and
Yeah.
it's a complete game changer.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you could do the maths quickly, but when you do work out, if you were to write down 3 or 4 wins a day for a whole year, like you would have a list. If you were to just write them down and put them in a pot, and at the end of the year, look at that pot at the end of the year, look at the pot with all of the wins that you've got. You'd have 1,200 bits of paper to look through.
Yeah,
And it could be as small as you smashed it, or you got into the gym for the first time, you did your first squat, you went for your first run, you had a nice coffee with your mum, like all of these kind of things. And then you look back at them and you're like, and then it gives you confidence. Like I said, like that action, that
yeah,
taking
yeah,
something and putting yourself out there to do something a little bit different than like to the grapevine, a little bit different to the norm, can then start to lead you to being able to rewire your brain, as you've already alluded
yeah,
to,
yeah,
but also just give you that confidence that actually, like this work that I'm doing, if you do it for long enough, will work.
yeah,
And that's something that, if we do go back to the start of my journey, why I got to 23 stone, like I said to you, I knew that I needed to change, and there were attempts of trying to lose weight, and I'd lose a little bit of weight and I'd stop, and I'd lose a little bit of weight and I'd stop. There's the clue, right? To everybody. Why is it that you're not at your peak goal minded fitness right now? Why is it that you're not feeling the way that you want to feel right now? Why is it
yeah,
that you are looking at that pair of jeans that you used to be able to fit in, but you can't fit in anymore? It's because you've not given yourself long enough to change. And when
yeah,
you give yourself time, when you give yourself the opportunity to flourish and thrive over a period of time, and it doesn't even need to be every day. I love the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, we're on it. We're choosing to make good decisions. 20% of the time, you can be a bit more relaxed and have a bit of fun, right? And
yeah,
if we use that balance in life, at the end of it, because 80% of the time you're being good, it's going to outweigh the 20%, which means if you do that for long enough, you're going to get the results that you want.
yeah, absolutely. Now, you said about diets that you've tried in the past.
Yeah.
I hear this all the time.
Yeah, of
Bad
course.
diets. And it makes me laugh because some people have been doing these diets for years and it's not worked. Like, and they're still doing it.
Yeah, I know. It's like there's so many as well, though. That's
Oh,
what
there is. And then
that's
there'll
what's
be a new one
crazy.
out next year
Yeah.
because this is what happens.
I think what's really interesting is, in the grand scheme of things, there's people that have been in the fitness industry way longer than me, and they've seen way more diets than I have.
Yeah,
But what you need to consider, that anything that's labeled like a short period of time diet is listed as that way because it's supposed to be a quick fix for you to get results that think it's working quickly.
yeah,
So, well, I mean, the one that's coming to my head straight away is Slim Fast. If you look at
yeah,
Slim Fast, it will only tell you to do it for a certain amount of time because they know that they're detrimentally putting you at a low amount of calories that is going to become dangerous in some way or another in
yeah,
terms of
yeah,
how much weight you lose, how much energy you have. It's only there to be done for a short amount of time. But if a Slim Fast diet is done to how they say it's supposed to be done, then of course it's going to fucking work, and you are going to lose weight because you're eating no food. You're drinking fucking 2 shakes a day and eating
yeah,
fruit, right?
yeah.
Makes total sense. Is it healthy? Absolutely not. Weight Watchers, another one. If
Mm.
you follow their diet to the letter of the law and somehow work their magic with their sins and whatever, that
You see, I
will.
think that's what when it's all it sins, right?
Oh,
You're
yeah.
it's already telling your brain that food is bad.
Yeah, and there's so many, yeah, there's and when again, some of the things that I've had to work on myself with my own dieting history and background is not treating any food as bad food, because
Yes.
every food has some kind of benefit to it. Sometimes you could consider something to be a waste of calories if you're training in the gym hard, if you're like competing for running, if you're training for an event, because nutritional food is more beneficial for you at that time. So if you were to swap something for a pint of cider, for example, waste of calories, right? You may as
Yeah,
well, you're more beneficial eating something proper. That's where I'm going with that.
yeah, yeah,
But there's so many elements of these diets and so many versions of these diets that all point to the same kind of goal of them. That all of them want you to get quick fixes, and then they want you to stop, and then they want you to come back again 6 months later.
yeah, yeah,
The ideal, the idea of my coaching and any good coach that I know is that they give you the tools to go away and achieve your desired health results, not just weight loss, because I don't believe that you can approach weight loss without looking at the mindset around why. Why
yeah,
is it that you want to achieve that? How are you going to achieve that? And like we've said already, sometimes it's not weight loss that people are looking for, it's a subcontract to them gaining a purpose back or
yeah,
achieving a goal that they've not achieved. And that essentially is what my coaching is about, right? Finding your 100%, going out there, getting your health goals, and also smashing a half marathon alongside it, which you never thought you could achieve, or another, any other goal
yeah,
that
yeah.
yeah.
So you like work on the whole package?
I won't, when I do my onboarding calls now, because I used to kind of like sneak it in. When I first started, it would be like, we're going to do a little bit of work on mindset. And I'd throw the odd video out there on mindset because it's a passion of mine and I love talking about it, right? Because I know how much benefit working on my nut has had on me and the impact it's had on my dieting and my running and my training and all of these kind of things.
Mm.
But now people know when they come and work with me, this isn't just weight loss. This is the full thing. And yeah, if that puts people off, fine. But you, I don't. It's like the chicken or the egg. That's how I describe it. What came
Yeah, yeah,
first, chicken or the egg? Is it the mindset first, and then the weight loss follows, or physical goals follow, or is it work on your physical self first and the mindset follow? I honestly don't think you can. I literally am so undecided with which one it is because as we're aware your mental health needs physical support,
absolutely. Yeah,
but at the same time, if you're in a lull and you haven't got your purpose, you're not sure on your values, you can't define the words that you're trying to create, and you're not happy essentially,
yeah,
having all of these tools to unlock questions and to see life from a new perspective is
yeah,
also
yeah,
insanely important. So that's what I have. That these are the tools that I have now, obviously through the help of all of the training and all of the education that I've given myself over the last few years. Is I won't just work with somebody on like I want to lose 3 stone because you can't do that without working on the reasons why and how you've
fine.
got there in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So do you work with men and women or is it just men?
Yeah, do you know what? A lot of my client base has turned mainly women, female, it's predominantly female, but I
Mm-hmm.
do work with men as well. I don't know, maybe I do have a softer approach, I think, to some male coaches. I do believe that because I've been 23 stone, I know the challenges of losing weight.
Yeah, yeah,
I have empathy and I know what it's like to be that shape or feel out of shape and not really know the whys behind it. So I help people find out the whys and then we can,
yeah,
you know why, you can then handle it better, right? But also I do love working with men because I raised money for Movember, and the main reason I raise money for Movember is because of their suicide prevention
yeah, yeah,
support.
yeah.
Men's health still, as much as it's spoken about, people don't have the tools. So if
No,
I can help a fellow fella, give them the tools to do what I've done, turn their life around, to come out the other side of their low, the part of their life where they're not that happy, to be like, fucking hell, I feel so much better now because I've followed all of these different points. I've now got goals in my life that I'm chasing, and it's given me a purpose again. then
Yeah.
that's like, I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but that's my perspective. Not just for men though, but for women. But I'm
Yeah.
passionate about it because I have had those. I've never felt like I've wanted to commit suicide in my life. I always knew that there was a way out, but like from the conversations with my therapist for the first time, where she was like, you need to go and get yourself on some medication. I was like, I don't want to go on medication. I knew that
Yeah.
there was deep down within me somewhere, Amy, there was some resilience there left that was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna fucking make this work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, with all of that approach and with all of that history, it's made me so passionate about handling mental health and
Yeah.
helping people out of their holes or slumps that they're in, because there's always a way out.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need somebody to chuck you the fucking ladder and the life buoy and the raft for you to choose which one it is that you want to then start getting yourself out.
I love that because I think, because you've been through that journey, it's like people will be able to resonate you because there's nothing worse than somebody standing there going, right, I'm going to show you what to do, like, as in fitness, diet, mindset, that's never struggled with any of that before. Like, I just think it's just a bit hypocritical. So I can understand why people kind of come to you and go, right, okay, he's done that. So if he's done that, then I can do it.
I think it's one of the most dangerous aspects of the fitness industry. And there's
Yes.
a lot of dangerous aspects of the fitness industry. But when you've got size 8 girls,
Yeah.
23, sat on a fucking bench in the gym, purposely leaning to go, this is what real bodies look like with their like a couple of tiny little fat rolls.
Yeah. Yeah.
So un it's irrelevant to somebody that's trying to start their journey, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe looking at it from the other side of the coin, maybe they are the right coach for somebody. Maybe they are. But at that point in their life, they've never been out of shape. They're purposely trying to create positive body image when their
Yeah.
body is fucking immaculate anyway. And any normal person who has a healthy mindset would be insanely happy with how they looked, not
Yeah.
trying to continually talk about changing the way they look, right? And these are all the
Mm.
kind of red flags that I've noticed. And I just think it's really dangerous. And I'm not saying that I'm the perfect coach. There's still things that I've had to work off. I'm honest enough to say my relationship with the scales was bad at one point, but I've got on top of it, and that's made me a really good coach for somebody who wants to get better at changing their relationship with the scales, because I've done that. Emotional eating is huge. It's so people don't
Yeah.
realize sometimes that they're emotional eating until you ask the question, okay, what was the reason that you ate that whole bar of chocolate? What was the reason you ate that whole bag of biscuits? Oh, I'd had a shit day at work. Okay, so what was the feeling you were trying to create? Oh, I just wanted something. Okay,
Yeah.
what can we swap that with, right? All of these things that unless you've been there, you don't know. And you can
Yeah.
read all the fucking books in the world. You can pretend to have a negative body image and or self body image and all of these things, but actually, like, no matter what it is, right? The best builders in the world are the best builders because they've been in fucking houses and they've been inside of bricks and mortar and because they've built houses. Yeah, the
Yeah.
best
Yeah.
surgeons in the world are the best surgeons because they've been in the theatre, in the hospital, doing operation after operation after operation, and they've absolutely nailed down what they're good at. I'll even go for the best PTs in the world are the best PTs in the world because they've done James Smith. Because they've done session after fucking session after fucking session. They know how people tick. They know how to get people to tick. And they know the anatomy of the body like the back of their hand.
Yeah.
I am in the fucking best category of weight loss coaches because I've been there and I've done it and I've helped other people do it too. And that's where I'd say, like, I do honestly believe that. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And now I don't know whether you listened to my podcast before.
Go
I
on.
always end on a question that I ask everybody, and it's the hardest question ever.
Oh, go on then.
Harry, tell me 3 good things about yourself.
3 good things about myself. Okay. I always find a way to crack a smile, even when things are going wrong.
Yes.
I I have a story to back this up as well. So when I had my Christmas Day moment, when I was really low, sad, depressed. That period of time lasted about 2 weeks.
Right.
In this room, I have a bed. In fact, I'll turn it around. So here, I was sat on that bed.
Yeah.
I was having a bit of a moment, crying, like, what's going on? Blah, blah. I was like, right. I was going for a walk with my cousins in like about an hour's time. I was like, fucking, right, pull yourself together, son. So I like stood up, dusted myself down, little bit of tears in my eyes. I walked out, and in the hall on my landing, there's a mirror. And I just looked at myself and I just was like, I smiled. I was like, what's going on? And I still just laughed. I was like, I don't know what's wrong, but something's wrong. And that was the moment I was like, it's only you that's doing this to yourself right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and that was it. But that's an example of where I just cracked a smile when actually I felt like the lowest I'd ever felt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another positive about myself is I could genuinely have a conversation with anybody. I
Yes.
The podcasting, as you're probably aware, has made me so much better at communicating.
Yes.
If you watch a video of my 10th episode, I'm umming, I'm liking, I'm filling gaps with this and that. And there may be a few on this episode, but I've got way better. But I do genuinely believe, stick me in a room, I'll have found out 10 facts about that person within about 30 minutes, right? That's just the kind of person that I am. And the third one is a new trait of mine.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with I. I'm gonna go with driven. That I love the fact that I've created this side of my personality that has allowed me to develop this drive. This like
Yeah.
wants to help people, wants to continue to grow, and I guess it links to the love of growth, like drive
Yeah.
of growth. That's the kind of feeling. So yeah, that's a growth centric personality. Let's call it that.
Yeah. I love that. Right. So if anybody is listening to this and thinks, right, I really need to get a handle on my weight, how I'm feeling, where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, really appreciate the opportunity for that. So Harry Purdy official on Instagram. If you That's probably the best place to come and see what I'm up to. It's where I'm most active.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Purdy on Facebook as well. Just drop me a friend request or drop me a follow, I think, because I'm a business account now. And that's it. Yeah. And if anybody's interested in just finding out about how I work, if you don't mind, and what I
Yeah.
do for work, in my Instagram bio, there's a free 14-day journal that anybody can come and download for free. All you need to put in is your email address, and it's the 100% journal. It can help with productivity, your energy, help you try and create your goals on a day-to-day basis, as we've spoken about on a lot. So yeah, you can go get that on my Instagram bio as well.
Yeah. I love that. And I recommend anybody to go over to that because I think, when you decide to work with a coach, it can be quite scary.
So scary.
It is, isn't it? So for you to have that opportunity for them to download that journal to have a taster of what you're about is absolutely key. I love that.
And I mean, if you wanted another reason to download it, there's a video on there of me smiling and explaining to you how to use the journal as well. So it's not as though you just get thrown in at the deep end. You've never used the journal before. Fuck, I don't know how to use it. There's a video of me explaining it too.
I love that. Well, thank you for being such an amazing guest. I can't wait to see what you've got planned for next November, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to start planning now, aren't I?
Yeah,
Public invite. Are you gonna come on 100% podcast soon?
absolutely. You let me know when you want me, and I'll be there.
Perfect. Let's get that arranged. Take care.
Yes, lovely. Take care, my
See
lovely.
you later.